Hello everyone. Today we are coming up to discuss something which is, I believe, very important for everybody, no matter whether you are a CAT aspirant or not. But if you are giving any of these competitive exams, or even if you want to just be a good reader, I think today's little video clip is important for you as well. So we are just going to be talking about how to read better, and or rather how to become a better reader. And when you have to become a better reader, there are a couple of things that you have to keep in mind. First of all, when you read something, you have to ask two things. What is being talked about? The topic, what is being talked about? And why is it being talked about? I mean, what's the author trying to tell you? And when you are, thinking about the why it is being talked about or why it has been written, therein will come the idea that is being talked about. Therein will come, of course, the way it is being talked about, whether it's in a positive way or a negative way or a neutral way. But together with it, we would also like to think about, okay, I am reading these things, but is my mind creating a mental image? Now, if I say that my room is air conditioned, that creates a mental picture in your mind. And you might ask me, ma'am, what kind of an air conditioner are we talking about here? Whether we are talking about a split AC or a central AC or a window air conditioned room. So because you've got so many options, so the image is very clear in your mind. But when, I say one line from a CAT passage, crinoline and croquet are out. Now, what happens to you? You're trying to think what is being talked about, but you don't know because you may not be knowing what is crinoline or croquet. And this I'm talking about the first line of a CAT passage, one old CAT passage. And so now comes the importance of knowing the words or knowing the vocabulary when you're reading, or the phrases, so that you can create images while you're reading. So if I tell you, okay, crinoline means a material, just like there is cotton and silk and satin and velvet, crinoline is also a material. So okay, we are talking about some kind of cloth material. That is crinoline. And croquet is a game which was played by children and ladies, sometimes even men, in old England. And we are saying crinoline and croquet are out, means that game and that clothing is now out, means it might mean out of fashion or out of circulation, whatever. But it does create an image, a thought in your mind. And that is very important, because if you don't have the image or thought in your mind, your eyes will be reading, but your mind will stop reacting. It goes numb, it goes here, there. And that's why people say we lose track in comprehension, or we lose track in reading. My mind doesn't understand what is being said, because your mind is not able to decode in simple words. It's not able to create images. So then, together with what is being said and why it is being said, we also need to know the words and the phrases which are being used and in which manner they are being used. Now let's take another example for you. Say a philosophy paragraph. Not really a paragraph, but just a couple of lines. So in this case, now, quantity of pleasure being equal, pushpin is as good as poetry. Alright. Now in this case, we have partial imaging. Quantity of pleasure being equal. Okay, so now at least we can decode that we are talking about pleasure, and we are trying to measure pleasure according to different things, how much pleasure we are getting in different things. And quantity of pleasure being equal, pushpin is as good as poetry. Okay, poetry we know it's related to poems and rhymings and etc. We studied in school, right? But what is pushpin? Now we really don't know what pushpin is. So pushpin, now if I tell you, pushpin was a game played by children. A board game played by children, early, again, ancient times. And this was said by Jeremy Bentham. And Jeremy Bentham was a hedonist. Now this word hedonist. And again I make it clear to you, okay, hedonist is related to somebody who is more pleasure oriented, right? There are two kinds of feelings, pleasure and pain. Hedonism is towards pleasure. Now let's read this again and try to understand. The quantity of pleasure being equal, pushpin is as good as poetry, said Jeremy Bentham, and the rationale of reward. Rationale of reward might have been his paper or his research or his book that he was writing about. And he's mentioned this, that if the quantity of pleasure derived through pushpin is equal to poetry, then we cannot say that poetry is more valuable than pushpin or whatever. And it is quite compatible with the principle of utility to recognize the fact that some kinds of pleasure are more desirable and more valuable than others. So now we again break this. It is quite compatible, means we can use it together with what? The principle of utility. And the principle of utility is what? How much value, utility, some value, how much utilize you can do of something, utilization. So some value. So it is quite compatible with the principle of utility to recognize the fact. What fact are we recognizing? That some kinds of pleasure are more desirable and more valuable than others. Alright, so the pleasure you might get from reading a book or from watching a movie. So in some cases reading a book might be more valuable for others, and in some cases watching a movie might be equally or more valuable than reading a book. So yeah, Bentham was saying, because he was only talking about pleasure, or about hedonism, so to say, as a concept, which was just focusing not on the value but just the amount of pleasure. So for him, reading a book and watching the movie is equally pleasurable. Whereas for some people who talk about the utilitarian things, in which the quality of utility, so something which gives you a better quality of life. So maybe reading a book might be giving you a better quality than a quality of pleasure rather than watching a movie. All right. So I purposely picked up something which is unfamiliar to you, so as to make you realize when you're reading unfamiliar text, what really should go on in your mind. So now what were we talking about? We were talking about the value of pleasure, the quantity of pleasure. And why we were talking about it? Because we wanted to tell that Jeremy Bentham is saying that the pleasure is equal whether you do X or Y, if we are not checking about the quality of pleasure, just the quantity of pleasure, then it may be equal in value. So this was just a very small aspect of reading that I wanted to talk about for people who are starting their reading, who are starting their preparation, or who are, so to say, struggle with comprehension. And when you read together with your eyes, your mind has to decode. So the what and the why is there, the words and unfamiliar phrases are there, the comfort level with something that you have read. So if we talk about something related to COVID, I think all of us will understand whether it's philosophical or whether it's historical or whether it's economics related. We'll understand some parts of it because we are comfortable with that topic. So comfort level with the topic is also very important. So if you've not built up these things, please start working on building your comfort level with topics, your diversity of topics, your breaking up of sentences when you read very long and tricky sentences, and then asking the what and the why of it. And together with it, coupled with good vocabulary, and see, vocabulary is an ongoing process. Even I learn new words when I read unfamiliar text. So please don't despair, please don't be uncomfortable or sad if you find that this is difficult to read, or this has got a heavy dose of vocabulary. Use it positively. See, once you understand the meaning of that word, it'll be there for you for life, and you'll never have to look at it again, and you'll always decode it. The mental imaging will immediately start. So the mental imaging actually is the key point in reading. And of course, your focus and concentration. So break your reading into parts, make it easy, substitute difficult words for easier ones, and you will see that reading actually becomes enjoyable and you can read much more in a given period of time. I hope this video was helpful to you. If yes, please do leave a like and a comment. And if you want more insights into reading, please do tell me in your comments. I'll make sure that I come up with more interesting things so as to make it more pleasurable for you. Thank you so much.